Let us welcome the 10th speaker. The 10th speaker is Miss Hiroka Hirata from Waseda University. She will deliver the speech under the title of Education to Enlighten Life. Education to Enlighten Life. So Miss Hirata, please come up to the stage.
Gentlemen, 5 years ago, I was on a plane to New York. The flight was nothing unusual, except for the fact that after 4 or 5 hours, everything started to shake. No problem, I thought. But the shaking didn't stop and began getting heavier and heavier. It was the worst I had ever experienced. There were a couple of small screams from the cabin. In the next few moments, I started to think about my life and everything I had done so far, and everything I still wanted to achieve. I knew one thing was certain. I didn't want to die on that plane. Fortunately, the plane weathered the turbulence safely. After reflecting about the experience, I realized this was my first time I had ever felt close to that. And it made me even more grateful for the life I had. What does it mean to have life? On one hand, people are fighting for everyday life all across the world without sufficient food and water. Yet, on the other, in Japan, we have people throwing life away through their own actions. That number reaches about 26,000 per year. Today, I'd like to highlight the paradox of this situation and propose a revision to education in Japan, which sadly is one of the highest rate countries of suicide among developed countries. Suicide is never an easy topic to discuss, so why did I choose it? I myself have been affected by this tragedy. 5 years ago, my friend died, choosing not to live anymore. For the first time in my life, somebody close to me died. Tears came out of my eyes. I remembered all the precious time we shared together, and we could have shared more. NHK broadcasted that the bereaved families often hesitate to make public the cause of deaths due to the prejudice against suicide. This is a double pain for the families who are hurting from the loss of a loved one, but feel that they have to hide from the reality of what happened. Suicide not only ends the life journey, but also leaves people around them extreme sadness. Japan has a long history of suicide, and it had been considered virtuous throughout our history. One of the known ways of suicide was seppuku of samurai. Samurai killed themselves with their swords, believing that it was showing their honor. Also, pilots in World War II had crashed into enemies because they believed killing enemies by blasting their own fighters will save Japan, as well as their loved ones. Considering those polar viewpoints on the act of suicide, in the Japan of today and in the past, I believe suicide has its own deep history that cannot be solved easily. According to the Suicide Prevention Support Center, health, financial, and family programs are the main causes of suicide. However, I believe the report is missing one more key ingredient in this problem. The fact that the modern day Japanese are disconnected from death in daily life. To cultivate my theory, let's go back to the beginning of my speech. After experiencing the terrible turbulence on that plane, why do you think I was able to appreciate my life? That's because by feeling death close by, I realized I was alive. I realized my life was limited and remembered I had so much I still wanted to do, and the people who would be sad by my death. Suddenly, I felt my life was priceless. Feeling that close by gave me such a significant idea of living. However, in your daily life, the opportunity to feel that close has been decreasing. For example, modern medicine has made your life a lot easier to hold on to and have a prolonged life. Modern food is always processed and safe so that we don't usually get sick. Both of these are in complete contrast to the past when they could easily die from minor diseases and unsafe food. This closeness to death enabled people to appreciate life more. Today, I propose an amendment to the education system that calls for a type of death education at high school. Its purpose is to live fully rather than just to exist by thinking about death. What to do is pretty simple. Teacher divides students into groups and gives questions related to death to discuss. For example, if you have only a day to live, what would you do? Or consider 5 things you would miss the most after you have gone. By asking these questions and letting students discuss, they will have the chance to think about that and feel a sense of reality about the issue. Also, they will not only start to appreciate their own life, but the people around them. Such an opportunity would hopefully change your way of thinking towards life and eventually leads to a reduction in the suicide rate. The irony being that the best way to save life is just through closeness to death. Thank you for listening.
We'd like to move on to the question and answer session. Ms. Morimoto, please.
Hello, and I'm sorry to hear about the shaky plane ride that you had. I think I can relate to that. Okay, my first question is, you are proposing death education in high school. What level do you think, what grade do you think would it be appropriate?
I think the first grade, high school, private first grade is good.
Okay, and there may be people who say, oh, we can't fit that into the curriculum. How do you convince teachers that this is a good idea?
I think I'm going to explain the effects of death education. And I think death education mainly has like 2 effects as a deterrent power of suicide. The first one is so by death education, I think people can have, they can feel a reality about the issue, like suicide, and they can start to appreciate their own life. And the second point is that when they hit the wall in their life and about to give up their life, like they will probably remember what they thought and felt through death education.
Okay, so do you think this is something that could be done during long homeroom or like are there any subjects, or what do you have in mind? So introducing like dance education, do you think that would be up to the homeroom teachers, or to sort of introduce in their homeroom periods, or?
I think homeroom period is enough. I just want the students to think about that, the chance to think about that. So just like questions about that is all I want the students to think about.
Are there any other ways, like maybe bringing in guest speakers, or any other ideas that you might have? Besides dance education, could other things be done?
Other things. I think counselors can also help. We also have like ethics education and learn about like the importance of life. But I think at the same time we need to have a chance to think about that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, my last question is, we hear about children and maybe adults sort of addicted to like computer games, and people who sort of live in the virtual world, kind of maybe away from reality. So do you think like introducing dance education would be effective for those people as well? Not just in schools, but
like effective to
the people who are like more involved in like surfing the internet or like playing games.
I think so. Yes, they can have. I think they can appreciate their life. So it will change your way of thinking.
Okay, thank you very much.
Now, it is a judgment call.